card deck, we're going to take a deep dive on the Fool. The Fool is the first card of the tarot deck, so it's something we should probably fully understand, especially if you're a new time tarot reader. I'm going to go, simply how to read the Fool initially so that new time tarot readers can get some benefit from it. But if you're an experienced tarot card reader, we're going to take a deep dive on some of the deeper meanings behind the card and potentially how you can use it in your readings as well. So the Fool is actually the only card in the tarot deck that is not numbered. It's given the number 0 because everything else has a number, 1 through 10 of its suit or whatever the case might be. But you can see the Fool here does not have a number. It's given the number 0. And it's the first card. And a lot of times if you view the tarot as the hero journey, then the Fool is you, the source of your story, who's going through their journeys up and down through life, right? And that's why traditionally in the original Rider-Waite tarot deck here, the Fool is represented as someone kind of coming down from the mountain with a helper dog, and the purification of the white colored dog, and then carrying a white flower. You've got the sun, and they're carrying very little stuff, so they're free of baggage, and they've got bright colors on them. So this is someone who is coming down from the mountain, essentially coming down from the spirit world to start their journey here on the earthly plane. And this is someone who is really carefree, up for an adventure, free of baggage, all those kinds of things. So if you're doing some tarot card readings and you see that, that's kind of the first place that I would go to read the Fool kind of energy. One of the times I often see this card in a tarot card reading is sometimes if someone's been in a relationship and it didn't work out and they've gone on their own healing journey, and then when you start to see the Fool, it kind of signifies, okay, you know what, you've healed yourself, you're kind of ready to get back out there. You're ready to have a new relationship or start dating again, whatever the case might be, so that you can actually approach this new relationship free of the baggage or free of the hurt from your previous relationship, and can actually see, how you can accept a new relationship and move forward that way. So a lot of people ask me, when I get a tarot card reading and they ask me about where they are post-breakup or newly single or what things are going for, when I see the Fool card come up, that's a signal to me that they are starting to feel ready, that they're ready to date again, ready to have a new relationship. And instead of kind of dwelling on the past or dwelling on the hurt from the relationship, which is an obvious stage that people will go through at the end of a long-term relationship, but they're actually ready to get out there and start dating again and really open for the adventure. And that way they, if you jump back into another relationship or have a rebound too quickly, you'll quickly say, oh, this new person, you're not going to give them a fair chance because it's going to say this new person is not like the previous relationship I was in, so therefore you're just going to have your walls up and you're not really open to the possibilities of this new relationship and new person. But once you've really done the work and you're healed from your hurts, you can actually, see this person for who they are and see the potential of this relationship for what it is versus trying to compare it to your previous relationship. And that's what I love about this card. I love some of the depiction here from the Light Seers Tarot. You can kind of see almost like a trust fall, right? So someone kind of also coming down from the mountain. I love the depiction of this woman here kind of hanging on to the stick rather than, carrying it with her, and almost like she's trusting herself, leaning over the edge for whatever the adventure might be. So one of the things that new tarot readers need to understand about the Fool tarot card is that it does carry a lot of this, I would say, naive energy with it. And that's an easy way to understand in the beginning, because if you are coming into up for an adventure, free of baggage, you're just open to whatever opportunities may come to you. But obviously not everyone may have the best of intentions, right? So it's like a person who is a little bit naive or doesn't fully understand the ways of the world. You can get fooled or tricked by tricksters if you're not really cautious, right? So what I like to say is this would be an equivalent if it's someone, you had a younger sibling or someone who was starting to date for the first time, and when you're in this kind of naive, really state where you're up for whatever and you think everything's going to work out magically and you don't know about the ups and downs of life, you may have, rose-colored glasses on. So if someone came to you, younger sibling, and said, hey, I just had my first date, it was amazing, we actually kissed, and then they start going even further and say, oh, it's obvious we're going to get married. I'm going to start thinking about names for our kids. I'm going to start thinking about what city we want to live in. They just had one date, met one person. That's why that's kind of Two of Cups energy, right? When you see this in the tarot and it's a Two of Cups energy, this is almost like an emotional spark. This is meeting someone and feeling a connection, but it's not a true, deep emotional relationship yet, because obviously you just met this person. Maybe this is your first date, whatever the case might be. So when someone who is presenting the energy as the Fool is taking the energy of the Two of Cups, which is, yes, a connection to someone else, and they're taking these huge leaps to say, oh, this obviously means we're going to get married, or we're going to, I'm going to name our kids because everything's magically going to work out. Someone who's been around the block a bit more, who's been up through the ups and downs of relationships, you might start to see them as very naive and very trusting and say, well, hold on, I think you may want to hold your horses or slow down a little bit because the odds of this one date turning into, the relationship that lasts a long time, that's not likely. You should at least wait to get to know each other a little bit better, right? But you are excited for them because you can see with their energy, their carefree energy, that they're very excited. You may not want to, break their hearts or kind of, be the Debbie Downer in their lives and say, well, this is fantastic. I'm glad that you met somebody. I'm glad that you feel a spark with them. I'm glad that things are going really well so far, but you may want to take it one step at a time versus, rushing in and jumping into things, right? And so that's where we are bringing, you have this naive energy coming from a universal place of love and trust and assuming that everything works out. And they start to get greeted with, someone come from the spiritual plane down here on the earthly plane. Now, if you're here on the earthly plane and you're starting to meet people, obviously you're going to mix it up. You're going to have ups and downs. Some things are going to work out for you and some things are not. That's just the way that life works out. In this case, those of us who may see someone expressing the energy of the Fool may start to say, you're a little naive. You don't know what you're in for. You don't know. You haven't had your heart broken yet. Whatever the case might be, you have the experience of being here on the earthly plane. And from that perspective, you are looking at the person who is the Fool and saying, oh, you just don't know what you don't know. Just wait till you start to experience real life and you're going to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer, at least, a cynic on them and say, I appreciate that you're feeling these strong feelings for this person and this is how things will be, but can you expect that this relationship or these feelings will be the same a month from now, a year from now, or 10 years from now, right? For those of us who have lived a little bit more of life. Now, when you get beyond that and you actually go, this is like midlife, when you go to late in your life and you actually do experience all those things and you've had the losses and stuff like that. I personally have lost my mom and I've been through, relationships up and down and so forth. So when you have experienced the ups and downs of life, you can say, oh yeah, they had no idea what they were in for or how hard things can be at times. It was a little naive of them to think that this one first relationship, first connection would be this magical fairy tale ending and so forth, right? And one thing I love about the internet and social media is that, the things that tend to go viral give you a lot of the ideas of what resonates with people emotionally, because obviously that's where people spend their time. They spend watching it versus moving on to other things. And some of the trends that have been popular recently is one is showing pictures of your siblings when you're young and having fun, and then giving the facts, which are obviously one of your siblings will pass first, so therefore one sibling will see all the funerals of every other sibling. One sibling won't see any of them because they'll be the first to pass first, and then one of them will have none of their siblings there for them because they'll be the last to pass as well. And these are just facts of life. If you have siblings and go through 80, 90 years of life, these are the things that are going to happen, and these are hardships that many of us are going to have to face in life. And so through that lens and knowing that some things can get very difficult, and even once you've started to lose people close to you, whether that's a family member, you eventually, if you live long enough, you're going to lose a parent, your grandparents, maybe some other family members and stuff like that. So you can see once you are in your old age and you've actually, in the beginning of life, you can see that teenager energy of the Fool to say, everything's going to work out great. This is my first connection. It's going to be my perfect long love connection. But once you're in the middle age, when you're a little bit older, had some experience here on the earthly plane, you're going to say, well, hold on, don't rush into things, right? And it's only with the wisdom of being towards the end of your life that you can actually see things a little bit differently, and it may change your perspective of the Fool, and for people who are seeing the Fool's energy. And this is almost the advanced tarot card reading, the way to look at it as well, right? Because once at the end of your times when you're 80, you're going to experience a lot of hardships and you're going to lose lots of people that mean the world to you, then you may start to look at things very differently. And if you choose to believe in potential of reincarnation or that kind of energy, you might see that at the end of our times, our spirits, our souls, the souls of ones you love, may come back in a different way, in a different form. And from that sense, when you see that, the Fool, which you think of as a very naive soul coming down for the first time, is not. They've actually been on this journey multiple times, and the odds that you meet them is not their first time in life. Therefore, they already have all the wisdom and knowledge and things that you may expect from living a full 80 years and knowing the ups and downs. And actually, from that perspective, even though they know all the hardships that there may be in life, like if you could tell yourself when you were young all the hardships you'd have to face, you might say, well, I'm not sure I want to do that, right? And at the end of your life, they'd say, oh, here's all the things that have happened to you. But even with that, when you look at the totality of life, it's a beautiful, magical thing. And so when someone has all that wisdom from 80 years of life and they choose to come back down from the mountain to experience it again, it's someone, when we see it, it's this perspective that we have. We're always trying to only amplify the good and protect ourselves from the negative. And that's not the way that life comes. Life always comes in a wave with ups and downs. And from that perspective, we think this naive fool is coming down only with the intentions to experience the good things of life, the deep connections, the relationships, and all that kind of stuff, and not the hardships. But in reality, the fool is a wise soul who has seen the ups and downs, who knows all that, and even at the end of their past life journey, they choose to come back again and experience all those ups and downs again because they know that makes the totality of their story. So now, at the end of our story, when we take a look at it through that lens, what we see is that naive soul who going on their first date and feeling like it's going to work out and they're going to magically get married. That naive soul is actually right, because from that perspective, we might, if we had that same perspective of knowing what would, from our 80s, if you go to someone's grandma who gives that perspective, what they would say is, knowing, yes, there's a possibility that this relationship won't work out because it's your first relationship, and yes, knowing all the hardships that you may have, with that new perspective and wisdom, you might say, actually, you know what? You should approach that new relationship and give it your all and go all out, because maybe it doesn't work out, but while it's great, it's going to be great. And through when you're 80 years old, you're going to wish that you actually just gave it all to that relationship and actually tried to make it work, or at least experience the joy of it for as long as it lasts, because that moment where you feel that connection and your brain races to those thoughts thinking, oh, this is it, and we're going to get married and we're going to name our kids. Like that is part of the life experience. That's part of the joy. Even if it doesn't manifest and doesn't work out, the fact that you are in that moment is one of the biggest highs and experiences that you can have in life. And so therefore, yes, we would, with the wisdom that they actually have, tell them, okay, yes, I know, even though we all know that there may be some ups and downs ahead and this main relationship may not work out, but yes, you should go all in on this relationship. And you should experience it for all the joy that it has, because it's probably going to be one of the things that you remember at the end of your days. And you're going to wish that you really did give everything you had to it, even if you knew it did not work out. And from that perspective, and that perspective alone, which is very important to us as a tarot card reader, you start to see the fool not as a fool who is naive, but someone who is so wise. And in fact, with that one, from that perspective, us as the narrator or the judge, we become the fool, because we thought that someone was approaching this only to see take the good and leave the bad, and from this like almost naive, innocent someone who doesn't know. And it's only with the wisdom that will come to us from the end of life where we can actually see the fool as someone who says, yes, there's going to be ups and downs. So when there are any little ups, I'm going to amplify them. I'm going to make them a big deal, and I'm going to savor them, because I know that there's going to be heartbreak and disappointment and things like that on the backside. And from that perspective, that is one of the most important things in advanced tarot card reading, is when you see this fool energy. Since all major arcana cards come from your spirit guides and guardian angels, it's not just this naive energy that is the most obvious thing that new tarot card readers can hang on to, this new open for adventure energy, but it's almost with the wisdom of, yes, part of life and getting the most out of life and all the joy is finding those opportunities where you feel like it's a new place to explore. You feel like you are experiencing things for the first time. You feel like things are working out for you in ways that they hadn't before. And when you start going down that path and feel those things, you want to go as far as you can with it, and you want to savor it as much as you can, because anything that's good, you want to amplify the good, because there's going to be hardships and the natural ups and downs of life that we're going to have, and everyone's going to experience, and you almost can't avoid if you're going to be on this journey. So this is why I love the tarot card, the Fool, And I love these surprises because it feels like it is a very naive card that just doesn't understand the ways of the world. And us, with our partial wisdom, always like to look at them and say, oh, you just don't know. If only you knew what I know, you wouldn't be so bright and bubbly. But it's only with the wisdom we don't yet have at the end of our days, at the end of our lives, that would say, oh, actually, you know what? And anytime you feel that energy, anytime you can explore that, you should do that, because there are going to be ups and downs, and the ups are really what gets you through it. And that's really what you need to hang on to, and it will savor at the end of your days, is that you tried your hardest. You tried to live in the moment while things were good, because there's no escaping the ups and downs that we're naturally all going to feel. And that's why I love this almost light seer's depiction of the full tarot card, because it's not really someone come down for an adventure. It's almost someone on a trust fall, and they're just trusting that, the adventure, that it's going to be worth it, and whatever's going to be good is going to be good, and whatever's going to be bad or negative as we perceive it is, oh, that's naturally going to be there. There's no avoiding it. So in knowing that, you almost still choose to take the leap of faith, the trust fall, to say the good that I'm going to experience is going to outweigh the bad. And that's why, if you believe in reincarnation, these souls, these spirits, keep coming back to you and wanting to choose to go on this journey again. Because even with the wisdom of knowing what a full 80-year life would entail, the ups and downs and hardships and everything, relationships, career, money, everything, and all that stuff, they would still choose to do it again. But the second time through, they might choose to savor the good a little bit more than focus on the negative, which we are always trying to do. We're trying to focus on erasing the negative versus savoring the good and getting all the joy out of it. So if you enjoyed this card and you really want to go deeper on all the cards in the tarot and my tarot reading course, you can see the links in the description.